Alright, so what's good, people? Today we're going to take a look at the AliExpress lemifshe rattlesnake design forest elf F03 Plus in M390. Lord almighty, what a mouthful. But, all that being said, it's a phenomenal knife at a crazy good price. So it's M390 and it's around $120. And then we're talking contoured, full titanium, with, of all things, a tuning board on the inside of it, which is just crazy. Yeah, this thing's nuts. I mean, you hear the sound it makes. It makes an amazing sound on the open and on the close. And then it's contoured. Just ever so slightly, but contoured. It's just hard to believe you can get all this with this nice diamond textured milled pattern that's fit in there super nice for, $120. It's just crazy to me that this kind of knife can be had for this kind of money, So this thing opened up, it's 7.8 inches long. It weighs in at 4.9 ounces, and so it's a little heavy because it has that tuning board on the inside, and it's a little thicker blade stock. It's M390 supposedly, but I have no reason to not believe them. HRC'd at 60 to 61. It's 4mm blade stock, which is pretty thick when you consider 3 to 3.5 would be pretty average. And then it's 20 thousandths behind the edge as I've measured it. And then it's got this nice coating on the blade that actually holds up and doesn't show wear. You can see I've got scratch marks on the satin up here, but not on this, whatever this coating is. I'm just not sure what this coating is. It's like you can feel it. It's really thickly applied, and it just holds up really well. So let's just kind of take a look at the knife here. Because it's contoured, it feels so great in the hand. And then it's really well balanced. Even though it's almost 5 ounces, it's balanced like right where your index finger sits, so it doesn't feel butt heavy or front heavy. It just feels robust, And then you've got this kind of floating zigzag back spacer going on with a hidden lanyard spot, a contoured clip that has some of the best. It's one of the best clips I've ever used on a milled titanium clip. It just rides in and out of the pocket phenomenally well. And then, like I said, this whole thing's just slightly contoured. And then look at the lock bar access. And this is an inset liner lock. And lockup's good. I haven't messed with the lock bar engagement at all. It's got a very good detent, and the disengagement is super nice. And then this thing came with phenomenal bearings on the inside of it. I'm halfway tempted to take it apart to just show you everything inside of it, which I think I'm going to do, to be honest with you. But let's just kind of look over the rest of it a little bit better, because we've got matching thumb studs with the pivots, which looks really good, and these give a really good amount of traction on here. And you can actually use the fuller to flick off of too, fairly easily. It's not super sharp, but it's just grabby enough to where it makes it pretty easy to flick off of it. And the front flipper, I'm not sure if they intended it to be a front flipper. Maybe they did, because it is set up above the pivot ever so slightly. So you can front flip it, but because they didn't jimp it up and around, and this jimping, you can just see it's pretty spaced out. And then because it has this coating over it, it's a little slick. So it doesn't make for like the best front flipper in the world, in my opinion. But it's still manageable. The thumb studs are where it's at, and the fuller. Either one of those options are great. And then just the noise this thing makes. So it's way better on the close. It's a very satisfying ting. And then on the open, it's more of like a kind of like you hear that thing reverberating inside of there. You can see that plate right there. yeah, but man, it's just super innovative. The only other knife I've seen with a tuning fork thing in it like this was the Pokilo Blades Alchem, and that thing's like $1,300. You know, it's that big transforming knife that's massive. Yeah, this is the first like real folding knife I've seen use that on there. I'm gonna pause it real quick and I'm gonna grab my tools and break it down. Okay, so before I break it down, I'll kind of go over a few of the negatives that I have with it. So first of all, we've got a T8 on the pivot, but then we've got T6 on the body. The thicker blade stock, obviously. And then it's got a nice sharpen and choil and plunge grind. So you can see it ends there, so you've got plenty of life to sharpen off of it. But you can see where the mark is right there. That's where the stop pin's hitting. Now, I don't necessarily have a problem with that because it's right where the plunge ends. And by the time you sharpen that much off of this thing, like, I mean, it's going to take you years to sharpen off that amount if this is the only knife you were to carry and use, in my opinion. But yeah, we can see the stop pin's nice and stout though, which is nice because it has that nice thick blade stock, you know. So that's kind of a negative, the thicker blade stock, and then the weight being almost 5 ounces. But from what I've seen and what I'll show you once we take it apart, you can take the tuning board thing out of it. Oh, that's my T6. So T8 on the pivot. And then T6 on the body. And so you've got to remove this one and which one is it? This clip one. And that's it. And she wants to come apart on her own real easy. There we go. So and let's just see for the fun of it if, yeah, so the hardware's steel, pivot steel, all the rest of it is going to be titanium, except for this tuning board. Just kidding, this tuning board is titanium. How about that? I didn't even know that. Back spacers titanium, but look at these bearings. It comes with super nice bearings, if it'll focus. There we go. Double row. I don't even know what you would call these. And they're kind of thick, you know, so, and they're not like caged. They're actually double-sided, like, you know, like skiffs would be. They're really nice bearings. And you can tell I've already KPL'd it. Maybe got a little crazy with the KPL, but look at the tuning board thing. And then you can remove it. I didn't realize that it's titanium, so it's not going to take a lot of weight away if you were to remove it. I actually thought it would have been steel. But man, just imagine if they keep using this thing and are able to really refine it to make the sound just that much better. You know, it'll be kind of amazing. Like, because, like I said, this is the first knife I've ever really seen with this type of thing inside of it. As far as I know, nobody else is really doing this, you know, with this tuning board thing. And then you couple that with the build quality of the knife and the action this thing has, and gosh, man, you've just got one hell of a knife. And then the price of it, it makes me question whether or not it's really M390. But then I have to look at the fact that, like, Tucson has plenty of knives with M390 that are at that price point, you know, and they've been tested by channels to be real M390. So I kind of have no doubt that this is probably M390 as well. You know, I think we've all just kind of been tricked into thinking that a premium titanium made knife with a super steel like this should cost $350, and I don't think it should. I think this is a prime example that it probably shouldn't. You know what I mean? It goes back together super easily. It's just built really well. Yeah, like I said, the clip, man, the clip's super nice. Goes in and out of the pocket just wonderfully. And a lot of it has to do with the ramp that's on it. The ramp is just really nice and flat and big. And so it just, there's no pop like going over your seam or anything crazy like that. It's just super nice. So hard to do this behind the camera. Okay. But you know, you just look at the action on this thing. It's so buttery smooth. And because the cutout is so well done, the only knives that I have that have like this nice of a cutout would be like the Militaw, which this is like a perfect size comparison for this knife. It's almost identical in length, and it really has very similar ergonomic lines. This one cants down just a little bit more, this one's a little bit straighter, but because this is contoured, the finger groove's a little more aggressive right here, so this actually is, dare I say, maybe almost a little more comfortable. It's not quite as soft as this one is on the corners, you know, because the Militaw is so soft on the corners. But then the only other knife I have that has that really nice access is the Devo Tallboy. You know, this thing has phenomenal access, you know, and this is, again, an inset liner lock. But you see, this is just a flat piece, and so it's still super, super comfortable because it's chamfered on the edge right there really good. And I'm pretty sure this is a pretty good size comparison too. Yeah, both of those are. So you can kind of see. But yeah, it you know, it's comparable to both of these as far as disengagement is concerned, and as far as how comfortable it is to disengage. It's just crazy how comfortable it is to disengage this knife, and then just how good the action is. Again, a lot of it has to do with those super nice bearings. And then you go back to the noise. Like where in the world are you going to get all this contoured inlay M390, just a good looking knife with an innovative tuning board thing on the inside, great lock bar access for $120. That's crazy. It's crazy. By a company nobody's ever heard of, lemifshe. That mainly, from what I can see, they make a lot of fakes, but they do have a lot of original designs. I've got another one coming from them that, quite frankly, I think looks better than this knife and was cheaper. And the only drawback on it is it's a real D2, you know, instead of a super steel like M390. But yeah, if you like the look of this thing, man, it's hard to deny the build quality, the action, the way it feels in hand. And then, like I said, really the only negatives are the blade stock thickness, the weight, and where that stop pin lands, which I really wouldn't even consider where the stop pin lands to be an issue, because it's actually back on the thicker side of the material, and it's so far set back that I don't think you're ever gonna sharpen off that much material. Yeah, I was just really blown away when I first I'd seen some other people review this knife and seen some shorts on it and stuff, and you know, as soon as I heard it had this noise, I was like wanting to check it out. But then, you know, Discerning Man said it was super nice, the action was great, and it was really comfortable, but you just never know until you get a knife in hand. And as soon as I got this thing in hand, I was like, holy crap. And from what I know, this Forest Elf company has a couple other models, because this is the F03, so they have a 1, that you can find on AliExpress. And then the 2, which also has a tuning board in it. I'm assuming it was the 2 because it's a rattlesnake design too. Who is a Tucson designer from where I know him from. Or no, Six Leaf. Same company basically. But it's a back flipper and a front flipper and was on AliExpress, but I can't find it anymore. It's gone now. I don't know. Maybe it'll come back. Who knows? But this one's surely on there. You can get it in this configuration and then a full Timascus. And when I say full Timascus, I mean the scales are full Timascus, the back spacer, the pocket clip, and then the hardware is gold, which looks a little gaudy to me. And then it's still M390, but it's a hand-rubbed satin finish from what I can tell. And that knife's over $300. But with the amount of Timascus that's on it, another company like, Concept or somebody would want $600 for it, So again, just kind of crazy. Yeah, if you have ever been looking at this knife and thought about picking it up, man, it's a phenomenal knife. I couldn't be happier with it. I end up reaching for it a lot of times over other things, even though it's a little thicker in the blade stock and a little heavier. It's just so fun to fidget with and so freaking smooth on the drop that it's just really fun to carry, If you've got one, let me know what you think about it down in the comments. And if you've got any questions, I'll try to answer them as best I can. Hope y'all are having a good one.